Pay attention to this man riding the elevator to his wife's apartment. This is 29-year-old TikTok star, Ali Abulaban. From the outside, everything seems normal. But just 2 minutes later, another camera outside the apartment captures something far more disturbing that will send chills to the social media community.
I just like the word.
20 minutes later, Ali calls police, claiming he just discovered his wife dead. But by then, he's already long gone and thinks he's going to get away with the murder. Little does he know, his horrific crime has been recorded every step of the way by security cameras. And now the hunt is on to find this cold-blooded TikTok killer. There are moments on the internet that look perfect. A smiling couple, a lavish apartment, a man with 1 million followers, making people laugh from behind a phone screen. But behind some of those smiles, behind the filters and the fans, there lies something darker, something that no algorithm can hide. In October 2021, inside a luxury high-rise in downtown San Diego, police would find 2 bodies sprawled on the floor of an apartment. A man and a woman, shot at close range. Their killer? A man who, just hours earlier, was making comedy skits for his audience. A man known to millions online as Jin Kid. But this is not the story of fame. It's the story of illusion and the deadly reality that hides behind it. Before the name Jin Kid became synonymous with tragedy, it was a brand, one built on laughter. Ali Abulaban wasn't just a comedian, he was a digital chameleon. He could mimic anyone, Tony Montana, gaming characters, celebrities. He turned a simple TikTok account into a viral empire, with over 900,000 followers watching his every post. His talent was undeniable, his confidence magnetic, but behind that charm was a growing storm. Ali's wife, Anna, was part of the picture-perfect world he painted online. Beautiful, gentle, and supportive, she appeared in videos and photos as the partner everyone envied. Together, they looked unstoppable, a power couple built on humor, style, and love. But what no one saw was how quickly that picture was starting to crack. In private, Ali's laughter would vanish. The same energy that made him funny online made him volatile at home. He was charismatic but controlling, charming but jealous. Anna's smile in videos often masked fear. Friends later said she confided in them about fights, about control, about things that didn't feel safe anymore. The marriage, once full of passion and ambition, began to erode. There were rumors of domestic violence, drug use, and verbal abuse. Anna tried to hold it together, for their young daughter, and for the man she once loved. But by late 2021, she'd made a decision. It was time to end it. When Anna told Ali it was over, something inside him broke. He refused to accept it. He didn't just lose a wife, he lost control, attention, and identity. To the world, he was Jin Kid, the entertainer. But to himself, he was a man who couldn't stand being replaced. Anna moved into an apartment at the Spire San Diego luxury complex, trying to start fresh. Ali checked into a nearby hotel. Outwardly, he claimed to be focusing on work. But in reality, he was plotting. One afternoon, while visiting their daughter, Ali took an iPad, his daughter's. To Anna, it seemed innocent, but he quietly installed a listening app, turning that device into a live microphone, transmitting every sound from her new apartment straight to his phone. It was the modern-day version of a keyhole, only this time invisible. Night after night, Ali would lie awake, listening. Every faint laugh, every phone notification, every muffled conversation from that apartment 35 stories above the city. And with each passing day, his imagination twisted the silence into betrayal. Social media became his weapon. He posted more often, showing off a man living his best life, while secretly unraveling behind the screen. His followers saw confidence. In reality, it was collapse. Behind closed doors, Ali was spiraling, fueled by obsession and a haunting conviction that his wife was moving on. In truth, Anna was trying to rebuild. She'd reconnected with an old friend, Rayburn Barron, who offered her kindness and understanding in a moment of chaos. But Ali didn't see friendship. He saw betrayal. And as jealousy mixed with addiction, the line between imagination and reality began to blur. By mid-October, Ali's rage had reached its breaking point. He'd started carrying a handgun everywhere he went, often filming himself with it, pretending it was part of his image. Friends thought it was just another character, another act. But deep inside, something had changed. The man who once performed for laughter was now performing for control. He wasn't creating content anymore. He was crafting revenge. On the morning of October 21st, 2021, he woke up alone in his hotel room. The air was heavy, silent. He reached for his phone, opened the listening app, and pressed play. Through the speaker, faint sounds echoed from Anna's apartment. A woman's voice, then a man's. He froze. Something inside him snapped. The illusion was gone. In that moment, everything Ali Abulaban had built, his fame, his family, his future, collapsed into a single thought. If she wouldn't be with him, she wouldn't be with anyone. And as the sun rose over San Diego, a TikTok star began a descent that would end not in fame, but in blood. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss as we uncover the next part of this haunting true crime story. Jealousy is a quiet poison. It doesn't strike all at once. It seeps slowly into the mind until love turns into possession and affection into rage. For Ali Abulaban, the poison had already taken hold. Now, it was only a matter of time before it claimed its victims. In the hours after he heard the man's voice on that iPad feed, Ali's world began to spiral in ways even he couldn't control. Every sound from that recording became an accusation. Every silence, a confirmation of betrayal. His breathing quickened, his hands shook, and his thoughts turned dark, chaotic, violent. Inside the Spire apartments, life went on as usual. Outside, in a nearby hotel room, a man was losing his grip on reality. Ali couldn't escape the sound replaying in his head. He convinced himself that Anna had replaced him, that the world was laughing at him, that the woman he once loved was now the reason he felt small. But what he didn't realize was that this wasn't about love anymore. It was about control. Control over how people saw him. Control over what she could do without him. Control over the narrative that had started to slip from his hands. He was a performer who'd lost his audience. And in his twisted mind, the only way to regain it was through a finale no one would forget. He began to plan, though even he might not have called it that. He packed his gun. He rehearsed excuses in his head. He imagined how it would feel to walk into that apartment again. At some point, rage transformed into resolve. And resolve became destiny. By early afternoon on October 21st, 2021, Ali left his hotel room and drove toward downtown San Diego. The city glimmered beneath the California sun, unaware of the storm approaching one of its tallest towers. Security cameras at the Spire apartments captured everything. A man in dark clothing, head down, carrying a weapon hidden beneath his jacket. He moved with eerie calm, like he'd rehearsed this moment over and over again in his mind. He swiped a stolen keycard, one he had secretly duplicated when he still lived there. The elevator doors opened. He pressed the button for the 35th floor. Each second of that ascent felt like a countdown to something irreversible. Inside the elevator, his reflection stared back at him, silent, hollow-eyed, almost unrecognizable. This wasn't the funny TikToker the world adored. This was a man consumed by the need to punish. And somewhere in that reflection, he found his justification. He told himself it was love, but it was ego. He told himself it was betrayal, but it was control. He told himself she had to pay. And by the time those elevator doors opened, he had convinced himself there was no other choice. The hallway on the 35th floor was silent. No shouting, no chaos, just the hum of air conditioning and the muffled life of a city 300 feet below. Ali walked down that corridor, his hands steady on the weapon, the iPad app still open on his phone. One last thread connecting him to the obsession that had driven him here. He stopped in front of apartment 3501, his wife's new home. Behind that door, laughter echoed, soft, distant, human. In the next moments, everything he once loved would be destroyed by his own hand. But before that door opened, there was a stillness, a breath of hesitation, a flicker of doubt. If he had turned around then, maybe the story would have ended differently. But he didn't. The door swung open, and with it, the last traces of sanity left his body. Neighbors would later recall hearing sharp, explosive sounds, 3 in quick succession, then one more, then silence. When the echoes faded, the illusion of Jin Kid was gone. All that remained were 2 lifeless bodies on a floor once meant for new beginnings. Ali stood over them, breathing heavy, the weight of what he'd done settling in with chilling calm. He looked around the room, familiar furniture, memories frozen in time, and pulled out his phone. He took photos, images no one should ever see. Then, as if caught in some trance, he sent them to family, to friends, almost proud, almost relieved. The man who once sought followers now sought witnesses. He wanted the world to see what he had done, to understand the pain he believed he'd been forced to feel. But there was no understanding, only horror. Moments later, he called his mother. The voice on the other end heard a confession, a son admitting to something unthinkable. And with that call, the illusion shattered completely. Leaving the apartment, Ali descended those same elevator floors he'd risen minutes earlier. But this time, the silence felt different. Not charged, not angry, just empty, like the world itself had gone still. Outside, the city continued its rhythm. Cars moved, people laughed, life went on. No one yet knew that inside one of its tallest towers, tragedy had already struck. Ali walked to his car, placed the gun inside, and began to drive. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He drove through the streets of San Diego as though nothing had happened. His destination, his daughter's school. The same little girl who had once appeared in his TikToks, laughing between her parents, believing her family was whole. Now, her father was on his way to pick her up, minutes after killing her mother. When he arrived, no one suspected a thing. He smiled, greeted her teacher, and took his daughter by the hand. And as they walked away, he was already rehearsing what he'd tell police next. By the time the sun began to set, the murders had been discovered. Police were already swarming the Spire apartments. Dispatch radios crackled with descriptions of the suspect and his car. But Ali was still out there, driving aimlessly through the city with his daughter in the back seat. His phone buzzed with unanswered messages. His followers were still liking his posts. The world still thought Jin Kid was making people laugh. They had no idea that the man behind the screen had just committed one of the most shocking crimes in influencer history. And as the night crept in, the man who once chased fame was now being hunted. Inside the Spire apartments, the horror had already been discovered. Neighbors had called 911 after hearing gunshots. Police arrived to find the door ajar, the apartment silent, and the scene inside devastating. 2 victims, both shot at close range, both lifeless before help could ever arrive. The names on the lease told the officers everything. Ali Abulaban, 28 years old, and Rayburn Barron, 29. Within minutes, a name echoed through the radios of San Diego police. Possible suspect, Ali Abulaban. Across town, officers began tracing his movements. Traffic cameras caught his vehicle leaving the downtown area. His phone pinged on highway towers leading north. And then, something unexpected, Ali called 911 himself. His voice was strangely calm, claiming he had just found his wife and another man dead. He offered no panic, no shock. Just a flat tone, rehearsed and hollow. Dispatchers noted his location and alerted patrol units nearby. As police closed in, Ali drove along Interstate 15, the night air humming through half-open windows. His daughter asked questions he didn't answer. He checked his mirrors, scanning for flashing lights. Within minutes, patrol cars spotted the vehicle and executed a high-risk stop on the shoulder of the highway. Ali stepped out slowly, hands raised. No chase, no struggle, just silence. Inside the car, officers found a loaded handgun tucked under the driver's seat, the same weapon used in the killings. On his phone, disturbing images, evidence that told a story no follower could ever imagine. Back at the Spire apartments, detectives pieced together the final moments of the crime. The surveillance footage from that day painted an unshakable truth. Ali entering the building alone, using his stolen keycard, taking the elevator to the 35th floor, and leaving minutes later with a gun in hand. The sequence was cold, deliberate, and irrefutable. For investigators, the motive was clear: jealousy, control, possession. For everyone else, especially his fans, it was disbelief. How could the man behind the camera, the comedian they loved, commit something so monstrous? In the months that followed, the story consumed the headlines. TikTok pages turned into digital memorials. Comment sections filled with confusion and grief. During his court appearances, Ali Abulaban appeared in a jumpsuit, hair disheveled, eyes distant. The charisma that once drew millions was gone. In its place stood a man hollowed out by his own obsession. Prosecutors described him as a manipulator, a man who lived two lives: the entertainer online and the abuser behind closed doors. They played audio recordings of him threatening Anna. They showed text messages revealing his paranoia, his jealousy, and his control. There was no denying it. The murders were premeditated. Prosecutors charged Ali with 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances, multiple victims, and use of a firearm. Evidence included surveillance footage showing his movements, audio recordings and texts threatening Anna, his own confession to his mother, his installation of the secret listening app, the gun used in the murders. Ali gave a TV interview while awaiting trial, trying to present himself as remorseful and claiming it was a crime of passion, not premeditated. Prosecutors disagreed, pointing out he brought a loaded gun, drove to her apartment, and executed 2 people, all deliberate acts. Ali's defense tried to argue passion, claiming he'd acted in a moment of emotional collapse. But the evidence told a colder story. He brought the gun. He cloned the keycard. He entered with purpose. He left with silence. And when the jury returned its verdict in May 2024, the courtroom fell quiet. Ali Abulaban was found guilty on all counts, 2 charges of first-degree murder, with firearm enhancements and special circumstances for multiple victims. In that same May 2024, after 3 years of proceedings, a jury found Ali Abulaban guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, firearm enhancements. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 50 years to life. Judge Kimberly Legata stated he would die in prison. In the days that followed, the internet turned inward. Creators posted tributes to Anna and Rayburn. True crime communities dissected the case, trying to understand what had gone so wrong. But the truth is painfully simple. Ali's need for control didn't start the day he killed. It started long before, growing silently behind every joke, every post, every carefully curated moment of perfection. Social media had given him an audience, but it had also given him an illusion that fame meant control, that attention meant love, that losing either meant death. Anna's family described her as kind, gentle, and forgiving. She had tried to escape quietly, to start anew, to raise her daughter in peace. But she never got that chance. Today, that little girl lives with relatives, far from cameras, far from the world that once knew her parents as internet stars. She'll grow up learning the truth not through videos, but through the painful silence they left behind. And as for Ali, he sits behind concrete walls, no followers, no filters, no applause, just the echo of his own choices. The story of Jin Kid is more than a murder case. It's a warning, a reminder that the lives we see online are not always real, that love can't be measured by likes or followers, and that behind even the brightest screens, darkness can grow unnoticed. Fame made Ali Abulaban visible, but it was obsession that made him dangerous. And in the end, the illusion he built so perfectly became the stage for his own destruction. If you found this story haunting and eye-opening, Make sure you're subscribed for more true crime documentaries just like this. Real stories, told through truth, tension, and reflection.